are back.
I mean, we never really left, but
It's true. We're literally just sitting here recording one after the other.
We are.
But
The spidey senses are tingling.
today, in this episode, we are talking
Susie's Notebook of Knowledge?
Huh?
Susie's Notebook of Knowledge? Ooh.
So, today we are taking our virtual road trip north. We are leaving New Jersey and going up into New England, where we will.
Wherein we will.
Wherein. There we go.
Yeah.
I like that. Wherein we will discuss the Bridgewater Triangle of Massachusetts, the Bennington Triangle of Vermont, and the Megalithic Chambers of New Hampshire and Connecticut and Massachusetts.
Fancy.
Right. So, without further ado, the Bridgewater Triangle, from what I can tell, it's a big giant swamp.
Yeah, I can talk to you without this. So it's a big giant swamp. They're bothering me. I hate them so much.
So the stories about the Bridgewater Triangle is that there's Bigfoot, Thunderbirds, cults, and curses. And so...
Like UFOs?
Yes, and UFOs. And like all these things that they're describing as far as UFOs sounds a lot like Foxfire.
Yeah.
And fairy lights. So I'm like, could be that it's a swamp.
Yeah.
But whatevs. The Thunderbird, however, I feel like it could be the pterodactyl of Central PA that goes from Ohio to Pennsylvania and upwards. So that one, I'm like, maybe we got a big giant pterodactyl.
Well, and there's stories about a Thunderbird out west too, like
Native and then there's the Jersey Devil.
Native Americans. No, that's an angry chicken baby.
Angry chicken baby, Sandhill Crane.
Native Americans, though, have had like legends about Thunderbirds for the longest, like prehistory times.
Well, that's part of the Bridgewater Triangle is Hockomock. I hope I said that right. Hockomock Swamp. And it literally translates to place where spirits dwell. Mm-hmm. So, the fun part about this is there is a mountain there called Glastonbury Mountain. And so here's the fun part.
You feel my eyes roll.
I saw your eyes roll.
Yeah, okay.
Stop it. So the megalithic chambers are all around this place.
Yes.
And disappearances all over the freaking place around this mountain.
Yes.
The Native American stories are that the rocks eat people. That they like swallow them up and they disappear.
Yes, I caught that much in my investigations.
So we move to Vermont now, where the Bennington Triangle is, where there was like a rash of disappearances from 1945 to 1950. But apparently there were a bunch more than just that. But the interesting thing about the ones for the 5 years, they were all around the same time period, like in the year. So, like, there was one on November 12th, there was one on November 1st, November 12th, 1945, 1946, 1946, December 1st, 1949, and then October 12th, 1950, and October 28th, 1950. The 1920, or the October 28th, 1950, that is the only body they've actually found. They have not found anybody else.
And what was the body like? What condition was it in?
It was very decomposed, and it was a place they'd already searched. Like, it was out in a field by a reservoir, and they'd already searched there. So I was like, ew.
And how long did it take them to find it?
I think it was 6 months.
Okay, so like the decomposition would be expected.
Yes. So Glastonbury and Somerset were industrial towns, and they are now ghost towns. I think there's 8 people left living there. And it's all one family, and they all hold like all the positions of the town council.
So why did the other people leave?
Because the logging camps and the coal mines and everything dried up, so they left.
So now there's just this one weird family that like thinks they need a town council when it's just them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you know what keeps him busy? So the guy who disappeared on December 1st in 1949
Mm-hmm.
is so the first guy who disappeared was a hunter, knew the mountain inside and out, and he was actually a guide for a hunting group.
Okay.
He got a little bit ahead of the hunting group, and when they walked to where they had last seen him, he was gone. Like, just gone. Couldn't find him. Another one was a student at Bennington College. She went out for a hike. Everybody told her, you're not dressed for it. Like, what are you doing? She hitchhiked up the mountain to go hiking, and she was ahead of a couple. So she had like this bright red jacket on. She was ahead of this couple.
I heard that story.
Yeah, and so she was like
She just
about
went on a whim, right?
huh?
She just went on a whim, like
Yeah.
nobody knew
Like she
why
was just
she
like,
went.
oh hey, I'm
She
gonna
went.
go. Yeah, so she was like about 100 yards ahead of this couple, and she rounded a corner, and they got up to that part, and they figured they'd see her on the trail, and she was gone, nowhere to be found.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third one to go missing was a little boy, 8 years old, also had a jacket on that was red, or a red shirt, and he had been talking about going to Glastonbury Mountain for days before he disappeared. Like, was obsessed with the mountain.
Okay.
So all of a sudden he disappears. His mom went to go feed pigs in the dump. And
Sorry. It's not funny. Don't laugh.
it's not. So
Okay.
anyway, there's pigs in a dump.
There's pigs in a dump.
We're going to hell.
It's not funny. It's not
Get it out. There's pigs in a dump.
pigs in a dump. She went to, oh my God.
Probably eating pawpaws.
Yeah, it's like, what is she feeding them? Pawpaws?
Okay. So
Okay.
anyway, so the kid was playing in the truck. The mom left him to go feed these animals. And when she came back, he was gone. And all he'd been talking about was going to Glastonbury Mountain for like days before it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Wait, you said she left him in the truck?
Yeah, they were in a pickup truck. And so she had left him in the pickup truck playing and came back and he was gone.
Oh my
And
God.
it was like minutes. So, I couldn't imagine. So the one guy who was 1949 who disappeared a year to the day that the student at the college disappeared, this guy is by far the most interesting one because he disappeared from a moving bus.
Yes, the guy who was like, he fell asleep on the bus and then he was gone. There's actually like a documentary about him.
Yep.
Like just a short one, but yeah.
Yep, he was coming in from the town over. He was visiting relatives.
It was an 8-hour trip. Yeah, and he had like some mental health issues. He was dealing with some depression.
He was heading back to Bennington.
Mm-hmm.
And as they got into the Bennington Triangle, the story goes that where the search dogs lost the boy's scent and where they assumed this girl disappeared to, all on the highway, this guy disappeared from a moving vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
And his
we actually saw the moment he disappeared. It's just that they were looking at him and then they weren't looking at him and then they looked back and he was gone.
Yeah, they said that he was on the bus at the stop before the last stop,
mm-hmm.
or before his
and
stop.
everyone saw him. He didn't get off because he was asleep.
And then when they got to the last stop, like his stop, all of his luggage was still there.
Mm-hmm.
His timetable was open and on the empty seat,
mm-hmm.
and he was gone.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the interesting part.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see. And all of them disappeared between 3 and 4 p.m.
Oh, I didn't know that part.
Yes, all of them disappeared between 3 and 4 p.m. And there was a music teacher who had gone up the mountain on a hike because he wanted to compose some stuff. And so he had a bunch of composition paper and he was going to write songs. And he went up the mountain and he was on this hike and, he's walking around. And so he turned back around and was going to head back to his car. And all of a sudden this like fog rolled in. and the whole place, like, temperature dropped, and it got dark, and he was like, shit, what do I do?
Mm-hmm.
So he's looking at the trail, and it's nothing like the trail he remembered, and he had just been on it, and he was just like, what do I do? And so he said he saw this maple tree kind of like glowing in the darkness, like calling to him. So he walked over to the maple tree, and he tried to find stuff to make a fire, and all he could find was like these big animal bones. And he was just like, what the hell? And so, he's getting more and more scared. It's getting colder and colder. He finally gets wood for a fire, and he makes this fire. He's got, he used his composition paper as a starter. And then he sat there and kept the fire going. He didn't sleep that night. He kept hearing noises and stuff. So the next morning he wakes up, and the trail, once again, does not look anything like the trail he remembers. And it turns out he is on the other side of the mountain. Like, completely, not even where he walked.
Wow.
Yeah, so all of a sudden he's just like on the other side of the mountain, and there he is. And he was like, I think 7 miles away from his car. Like, just traveled overnight.
So what do you think? Like, what's a rational explanation for this?
It seems like there's soft reality, for lack of a better term. But the interesting thing about the layout of the land on Glastonbury Mountain, it looks like Glastonbury Tor. Like, when you look at the elevation maps, the two of them look like twins.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, huh, well, that's interesting. And there's been stories about Glastonbury Tor too, where people disappear and there's a fog.
Okay, stay with me.
Okay.
So these people are disappearing from one Glastonbury or the other, yeah?
Right.
Are there ever any stories of just random people showing up somewhere in that area?
There was a town in England where 2 green children showed up.
Yes.
Remember the green kids? And they didn't speak English.
Yeah.
And they were little. And the
But
brother died.
yeah, but was that Glastonbury Tor?
No, I don't think it was far from there, but I can't remember where.
Right. But
And they said that their world was like twilight, like perpetual twilight.
but you see what I'm like, what if they just step through? Like you said, soft reality.
Yeah. But I mean, where did they step through to is the question.
What? Those are like, there's special places like in the world where things seem to come together, but they're also coming apart at the same time.
Like Long Island. Montauk.
All of it. But what if those are spots where like timelines kind of, like, how at the train station the train lines start to merge and then they cross and diverge again and such, or run together and then stay together? What if that's one of those, like what if people are just like stepping through into a different rail track, for want of a better?
And I mean, that totally makes sense. As far as this guy goes, it's weird that he would be on the other side of the mountain.
Yeah.
So not only did he go through a soft spot in reality, but he ended up 7 miles away.
Right. So
There's like little wormholes all over the place.
yeah. So like maybe he went through 2 soft spots.
Yeah. And he said there was like a bunch of like large animal bones like all around him. So it's like, okay, what if it's kind of like a Stranger Things scenario where it's like there's this in between space, and when you slip through, if you don't manage to get out the other side fast enough, there's this thing waiting.
Well, but then there's also like scientists are studying dark matter, right? They don't know what it is. They don't know what it does. They don't know, there's so much about the universe we don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many places that disappearances and things seem to happen in inordinate amount of cases and at times and people that you just wouldn't expect. Like, how do you lose a child in broad daylight when they're playing in your vehicle? Or a kid in a red coat or a woman in a red, like these are people that just shouldn't be getting lost.
And what was weirder still was like she seemed to be kind of like on a whim, went on a hike, not even dressed for a hike.
Exactly. Like, what drew her to do that? What
Yeah,
caused
the
that? Why?
kid, the kid kept talking about the mountain and talking about the mountain, and like days before he disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
And then the music guy, he he went out there specifically to
Well,
commute.
artists, we're weird.
Yeah,
I don't think he counts. Like, artists are weird
but
anyway.
he kept his head together and moved to the maple tree and made the fire.
It's because we're weird that he survived.
Probably.
Because, well, no, I mean, like, think about it, right? Like, artists are kind of, it is like our grip on reality isn't that great anyway, just because we have imagination and we're always thinking about the next thing we want to make or do or whatever,
Or the what if.
or the what if scenarios, or oh my gosh, wouldn't it be cool if. So, like, I think somebody like that would be more likely to be okay in a situation like that because we've probably kind of already thought about it. You know what I mean? Like, we've already explored those ideas, at least mentally, if not within our art.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing is very interesting, and it's all up in that area. And
Mm-hmm.
then of course there's the megalithic chambers. There's America's Stonehenge in New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
There's Gungawamp in Connecticut on the Thames, and Upton Stone Chamber in Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
So those are kind of interesting too, because
Well, those are the big ones. Apparently, there's like 800 of them spread around.
yes, all along that river.
Mm-hmm.
So they seem to follow rivers. They actually go through the triangles as
Mm-hmm.
well.
So, why don't you explain then what these megalithic chambers are exactly?
From what I've read, they are a lot like the Celtic, not burial chambers, because they weren't used as burial chambers. People were like, oh, maybe it was storage, maybe it was this, maybe it was that. The one program I saw about those chambers, they have a long entryway, and then they kind of
Mm-hmm.
come into this circular chamber.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And
and
the sun hits it at one particular angle on
so
particular
they are
days.
facing, yeah, they're facing the solstices and stuff. The interesting thing about all of these chambers is when you sing or you play an instrument in them,
Mm-hmm.
the acoustics create a theta wave.
Mm-hmm.
So for those not in the know, the theta wave, it kind of activates your brain, like the parts of your brain you're not using. So you got your alpha, your delta, your thetas. I think I'm missing one, but theta waves will help kind of put you into a deeper meditation state. So you got your alpha, which keeps you in, it's the meditation state but awake. The deltas for sleep and the thetas for meditation, like deep transcendental meditation. So these seem to be replicas of those chambers. And so everybody's like, oh, well, it's clearly just used for grain storage and stuff like that. Like,
Of course.
no.
Here's the thing, right? There's a theory that those are actually built by the Celts.
Mm-hmm.
That the Celts came to North America
Yep.
before anybody even thinks they did, and that they were living and doing their. Because I've seen things that say they're probably places of worship.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there's evidence that the Greeks were here too.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that's wild. It's like it just kind of blows everything out of the water at this point.
Does.
But yeah, the stone chambers are interesting because they are lined up kind of the same way that Stonehenge and everything are, and the way that
Mm-hmm.
the cairns are in Ireland.
Except for these cairns, like they've shown that typically when you build like a signal cairn,
Mm-hmm.
it's small rocks. These are boulders that weigh
Yeah.
several hundred pounds and they're like low. So they're not high so that you can see them. They're
Yeah.
like lower to the ground, and the way that they're positioned, they don't quite understand it, but it's obviously significant.
Yeah, they did a lot of masonry work on them.
Hmm.
Because some of the stones are just square cut, and there's no mortar in any of them,
Hmm.
which is probably why why they held up.
Yeah.
My grandfather used to do masonry without mortar,
Hmm.
and he showed me how to do it, and it's neat. It's really neat.
Very neat, but it's difficult.
Oh yeah, I mean you got to have some know-how. So
Mhm.
to do that with boulders, it's
Yeah.
impressive. And I mean it can be done. My grandfather did it, but I mean he had to have like winches and stuff like that to pull everything into place.
Hmm.
Um, so it's kind of interesting. It makes me wonder, with these soft spots in reality and then all these chambers around it, is it, and on Glastonbury Mountain, the winds, the way they blow, the the vegetation doesn't grow the way it normally would. So it
Right.
grows all twisted and crazy because of
Hmm.
the wind.
Right.
So somebody was actually saying, it's easier for hikers, the less experienced hikers that have never done this mountain to get lost, because if you're an experienced hiker, you look at stuff like
Hmm.
how the plants are growing and stuff like that to see which way the sun's coming, which way the wind's blowing, et cetera, et cetera. And you can't do that with Glastonbury Mountain because everything's twisted all around.
Hmm.
So it's disorienting. It's like when people, talk about haunted houses, and it could just be that half of it is the house is off kilter. And
We should go there.
we should go there and see if we disappear.
I think we'll disappear. I just think we should go there.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, not a virtual road trip, a real road trip once
Yeah,
the road's over.
totally agree. Because I would very much like to see the megalithic chambers,
Yeah.
at the very
I
least.
want I want to draw and paint the trees.
That's Glastonbury Mountain, so that one's gonna be bringing us up into Massachusetts and Vermont.
Road trip.
Yep, probably more Vermont.
Well, I mean, I could drive from here to get you, and we could take your car because it's nicer, and then
I
and
don't know
go
if my
from
car
there.
would handle the mountains. I mean, it's a Ford Escape.
I have a Toyota Yaris.
Oh,
Your car will be
I
fine.
I literally drove over, because I mean, like with the pawpaws, I drove over barely roads.
Yeah, you'll be fine. Maybe not with you driving, but I'll drive. It'll be fine.
I mean, I've been in a Toyota going up an access road to a windmill, so in the winter with my brother driving in full navy blues. So, yeah, it
Mhm.
can be done.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would love to see the megalithic chambers, and obviously I would also love to see Glastonbury tour because
Well, that's easy. Go to England every year. Just come with me. Duh.
I'm gonna need to get more Ativan to go on the plane.
Well, talk to your doctor and see if Ativan is right for you.
I already did. It totally is.
Bitch, stock up.
I'm gonna have to. Although honestly, like the plane ride out to Colorado was a breeze, and the plane ride back from Colorado was a breeze. So, and that was like nothing but turbulence all the way. So,
And you'll be fine.
yeah. Well, that was with Ativan. Like 2 Ativans there, 2 Ativans back.
You're going to need more than that because the flight's much longer.
The flight out to Colorado, how long was that? 6 hours?
Oh, it's about even then. 7 hours to go to
Yeah.
England.
It's faster to come back for some reason. I guess like the tailwind.
Tailwinds.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hmm. I would say that you're gonna want to probably bring like 3 or 4 for each way just because.
Yeah. Well, I
You're
mean,
you.
I was out the entire
Okay.
plane ride. I
Mhm.
didn't wake up until the plane landed, and they were like, "Oh, hey, we're landing."
That's you.
Please do. Yeah, I do not fly well at all. I'm very much like a cat clinging to the ceiling.
I'm like, meh.
Like, as long as we don't have to jump out, I'm fine.
Yeah. I don't think I could stick the landing quite so much anymore.
Just run, tuck and roll.
No, you keep your feet and knees together. Stay loose, stay loose.
Loosey goosey.
When you stiffen up that you have problems.
Yeah, because I'd be loosey goosey jumping out of a plane.
Well, no, I mean, it's not necessarily when you're jumping out, it's when you're about to land.
Well, yeah,
I
I'd
don't
probably have a heart attack before I hit the ground, so there's
I'll keep you safe.
that.
Fish brains, you'll be fine.
I'll be fine.
You'll be fine, fish brains. Save me.
Mad dog hot pants.
Woof woof, bitches.
Glove glove. And on that note, I think
I think we're done.
yeah, we're done. Stick a fork in me. I got Taco Bell.
Yeah, I gotta go make pork chops.
Ooh, I got kind of
Okay,
world.
so yeah, bye. We'll come up with something else cool to talk about next time.
Indeed. And
Like, share,
if you want
comment,
to see
subscribe.
us, yes, if you want to see us talk about something, if you've got a topic you'd like us to discuss, if you've got some weird shit you want us to talk about from your state, we will take a virtual road trip to your state and talk about your weird shit.
Yeah,
So,
we will.
gonna spill all the tea.
All tea. I like weird shit.
I do the weird stuff. But seriously, like, comment, share.
Subscribe.
We got some really good conversations going on Facebook,
Yeah, we
and yeah,
participate in them. It's really fun when you like talk back.
yeah, because I mean, like, I created that post and it's just taken off. Like, there's so many
Yeah.
comments, and everybody, like, we're probably gonna talk about, there is a witch house in Hanover apparently, so we're gonna probably talk about that at some point.
Yeah, and then oh my gosh, the guy that there was a guy in Pennsylvania that his neighbors offed him. Should talk about him too.
Is that the powwow guy?
He was a witch.
Yeah, that's the powwow guy.
He's the same guy.
It was a fellow powwow guy who offed him.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're gonna talk about it.
Yes, we're gonna totally
Oh,
talk about that.
we also have a Facebook page, so come talk
Yes.
to us on there.
Yes, we have a Facebook page, and we like the chats. So
Yeah, we do. We don't. I don't have any much else to do. I will talk to you all day.
he's gonna talk the crap out of you.
Yeah, I will. Okay.
Anyway, I'm gonna go eat this thing.
I'm gonna go feed my beastie boy. Have fun with your wrong burrito. I'll send you photos of my flip chops.
Life is sadness and ennui.
Got the angst.
Later, guys.
Goodbye.
Next time. Mwah.